great pleasure, as always, to welcome to the Jock Line a gentleman who is certainly, at least we hope anyway, getting ready for what will be a busy season forthcoming. Mike Kern is one of the chief officers and operating personnel with the Missouri Valley Conference Office and, of course, a former staff member at Missouri State University. Mike, thank you very much for visiting with us today.
Well, thanks, Ned, and it's unfortunate that I can't be down there to see your face in person, and I hope that we can do that soon.
Mike, that's not unfortunate, Mike. At my age, nobody wants to look at it anyway.
We all have faces for radio.
Yeah, you're talking to one of them here. Mike, we do have, first of all, before we get into the poll that's coming up, there is a football game here in town. The Missouri Valley Conference, of course, has postponed the football season until the spring, but the Bears do have a game on Saturday. Are you going to be able to come down to be a part of that? It is homecoming.
Yeah, no, we've made a decision not to do much travel, and I don't know if the commission is going to do any travel this year, including in February when we start going with conference play. We'll have to wait and see. You know, I will try to get down to Springfield a couple of times. We do our conference television package, and I know the Bears are on it, I think, twice, and there'll be home games in February, March, and April. I'm not sure when exactly, but I think we've got 2 of the 8 games will feature the Missouri State Bears on our conference package, and I'll get down there for those, but I won't be down there this weekend.
You do mention basketball, and it's about this time of the year that the preseason polls come out. Is that any time in the future?
Well, ironically, we just announced the women's poll this morning, about 30 minutes ago, and the men's poll will come out on Thursday. And to no surprise, the Lady Bears are picked to win the league with 10 returning players, 4 starters from last year's team that was denied a deep run in the NCAA tournament, and potentially another conference championship in Moline. But we're excited about the prospects of another great season in women's basketball, and we expect big things in men's basketball as well.
In the poll that has been released, Mike, since you're on with it and since it has happened, how substantial a first-place vote did the Lady Bears get?
They were picked on 33 of 40 ballots, and, of course, the Lady Bear voters could not vote for themselves, so they were picked basically on 33 of the possible 36 ballots, and were picked to win, edging Bradley in the poll. Bradley had the other remaining first-place tallies, and they've got a ton of people back, with 4 starters also coming back for the Braves.
Boy, for so many years, the Bradley team was not a contender at all in the Valley, and here they are picked for second. How about the previous contenders like the Illinois States and the Northern Iowas, people like that?
Yeah, I mean, Drake has been pretty dominant. As you know, Drake and Missouri State have had some great battles, and Northern Iowa is picked 3rd, and Drake is picked 4th, and as you mentioned, Illinois State is picked there in the 5th spot. We are good from top to bottom. Evansville had a bad year, of course, last year, but they return all 5 starters, and I expect the bottom to get better, and we'll have a great year in women's basketball. It was very disappointing the way the season ended last year with no opportunity to have multiple teams in the NCAA tournament, no opportunity to play for a championship in Moline, and we hope those things are rectified this upcoming season.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Mike, because that has been a point of some controversy and discussion, certainly, the fact that the Valley hasn't gotten very many women's teams, one at the most in the NCAA National. You feel like those days may be coming to an end where more than one can get in?
I do, and I think last year Drake and Missouri State were both poised to make the tournament. It's time that we have, in women's basketball, it's just a little different in the opportunities they have in the non-conference scheduling space than we do in men's basketball. The Power 5 schools are willing to play women's basketball. It's more of a regional opportunity, and the Iowas, the Iowa States, Big Ten schools will play our schools. And I think there's an opportunity for our women's basketball, which has gotten so much better over the last 2 or 3 years, that we will be back on the map for regular multiple postseason berths in the NCAA tournament.
All right, let me hear from a conference official why you think that situation exists, why the women are probably more apt to play, a lower level against a higher level. Why more apt than the men?
I don't have an answer for that. I can't just say it's culture. It's not for the lack of trying on the men's side. We have men's teams that's all they do. And this year might be a little different in the opportunities that we might have in the non-conference space. We haven't seen much of the non-conference schedules that our coaches are trying to put together on the men's side or the women's side, quite honestly. with the start of the season pushed back to November 25th. We lost a host of games early on, including some of the multi-team events that the men's team's playing, and we're all trying to piece that together so we can get good 8 opportunities in the non-conference space to make a statement. And I hope that there are some regional games that present themselves just based on the lack of opportunities for travel.
Do I assume correctly, Mike, that that's still a work in progress? This team's coming up with a non-conference slate.
Yeah, we've been pressuring our coaches to supply us with what they have, and not much is coming back. So I think it is definitely a work in progress. Some schools were able to salvage most of what they had on their original slate. Many of them lost half or more of the games that they had originally scheduled, and as you have other leagues talking about expanding their conference schedules to play games that were originally scheduled after the first of the year in December. Games that were scheduled against those non-conference opponents are going away because they're playing a conference game now. So, we are slated to play our 18-game conference schedule, knock on wood, as normal, with expectations that we will meet up with some cancellations or postponements. But we're playing our 18-game conference schedule beginning the week of Christmas, starting with the men on December 30th and the women shortly after.
With the intangible of cancellations, and of course that's not something you can predict, are you still allowing the teams in the conference to play a max of 29?
They have limited that. They cut that back to 25. The NCAA cut it back to 25. So there's with the shorter season, they cut back 4 games is the maximum.
Mike, what do you hear, and we'll use both genders involved here, about postseason play for next March? Certainly none of us wants to go through that circumstance that developed last year. That was horrendous, and I'm not sure it was, well, that's beside the point. It was horrendous. Are there thoughts about how that might be handled should it happen again this year, or in 2021, I should say?
Everybody's looking at contingency plan, and you said it best. You can't plan for what you don't know. But I think there's a willingness for everybody to pivot and make sure that the opportunities are there. If we can do it in a safe way for our student athletes and everyone surrounded around the game, it's just I know the NCAA, like us, we want to provide a safe environment for our student athletes to play and experience a championship environment. And I think we're all looking at any possible way to do that. Now, you start with the original plan. Is you look at what you have on the slate from previous years, and you start with that. You scale it back. If there's no fans, there's no fans. If things are different, But we want to provide the best and safest environment for our kids to play.
From what you've been able to learn from the members' colleges, are there some that are planning on no fans being in attendance, at least for the start?
I think it's going to be based on local and state environments, what they're getting dictated to them. I don't know that that's where we are in all of our places. I think most of our schools will be looking at limited fan capacity, and it'll vary on the percentage of what's allowed, and it'll all be based on what's happening within the region. And I believe Missouri State is set to have a certain percentage as well.
Visiting with Mike Kern from the Missouri Valley Conference, and the women's basketball poll has been released. It is out now, and Missouri State is a very strong favorite to be the league champion. And hopefully, if everything progresses well and the disease is conquered or at least reduced anyway, we'll have an NCAA tournament. Is there a specific women's TV schedule as there is with the men?
There will be. We have not pieced that together, and part of it is that we are waiting for our television partners on the men's side, our national partners, ESPN and CBS Sports and Fox Midwest, our regional sports network. They are piecing together their NBA, NHL schedules, which are not known yet. So they, as the dominoes fall, our schedule will be announced. But there is a package on the women's side as well as the men. The women play all their games on ESPN3 or ESPN Plus. And as most or all the games on the men's side are also available on that platform.
Mike, this is John Hartley. I'm co-hosting with Ned this morning. I'm a lifetime Valley fan. I went in the mid-'70s. I went to college with Larry Bird's older brother. Have been lucky enough to been to the Bird household, as a matter of fact, in French Lick. So, I go back that far with the Valley, and am a Bear season ticket holder. Ned knows exactly where my seats are. I have a question for you as a COVID survivor myself, which I'm wanting to have T-shirts for my whole family made. But Can you enlighten us a little bit about as the conference schedule begins, what the protocols will be? Is each of the universities within their own protocols, or does the Valley say they come up with a positive test, just one, or maybe two? How will the Valley handle that, or is it university based?
It's a little of both, and we've got a COVID-19 working group that has been meeting basically all summer and mostly every week, and it consists of administrators and trainers, and student athletes are actually on it also. And we're developing a standardized protocol with local and state and municipality health considerations in order too. So it'll be a conference-wide policy with all those other considerations, institutional policies taken in consideration as well.
With the, and I'm being very facetious here, the limited media coverage of COVID-19, and I don't mean that to be taken very seriously, Mike, because it's been overwhelming, there apparently are a number of tests, and some of them are relatively simple, a sputum test and things of that nature. Can you elaborate a little bit on what the Valley is leaning towards?
Well, we will follow the NCAA resocialization guidelines, which requires to be, once you get into the preseason practice, will require 3 tests a week for the high-contact sports, and that includes basketball and football. Right now the challenge is finding the availability of the testing equipment and the availability to test, and that's what our schools are both efforting at, to try to make sure that there's enough tests so you can't really test through the virus, but you can test enough to be able to have enough people to compete on a basketball roster or a football roster.
Mike, there had been some talk very early, and I don't really know how much it progressed, if it ever did progress, that maybe the start of the season might be held in a bubble somewhere, or maybe the postseason held in a bubble. Is any of that still in the offing?
We like you, we had heard the rumors in those conversations, and I think the bubbles become very expensive, because what you're doing is you're taking a team, housing them for weeks or a week, and it's just an expensive endeavor for teams to take part in that. I think if we get to the point where we have to play an NCAA tournament, and that's the way to do it, they will look at that model. But I do know that right now they're planning for a status quo tournament with the same number of preliminary sites and the Final Fours at their predestined locations, and we as well are planning to have our conference tournament in St. Louis for the men and in Moline for the women.
Mike, I got a question for you. This is John again. As a baseball guy and a little deeper in the weeds of the Valley and NCAA, very close friends with Coach Gutton, do you have any insight or any knowledge of when they're going to take the handcuffs off the coaches so they can get out and start recruiting again and open the world for our high school athletes to be seen by NCAA coaches?
Yeah, that one's past my pay grade, so I don't know when that might. And I know that it'll all be based on being able to do so in a safe manner, and when things are safe in all areas, that will probably occur as quickly as possible, but it'll be done by an organization that houses their office in Indianapolis.
It goes by an acronym, too, I think, doesn't it? Like NCAA or something like that.
Yeah. I know that it's very difficult when you're running high school athletes right now and they're trying to help them reach their goals and dreams whenever the coaches are handcuffed. And I wish they would release some of the conditions for the college coaches to be able to keep looking at our kids.
Yeah, it is tough for those that are already in college, and it's certainly tough for those that want an opportunity to play with a scholarship and be able to show off what they can do. I know it's really hard for everyone, and I think we're all looking forward to the day when those things all return.
Okay, Mike, we'll let you go, but first, one quick question, kind of like Columbo. Oh, just for a second. We've been talking basketball. The football season, while we have a game down here on Saturday night, the final game of the fall, begins on February 20th. Can you enlighten us just a little bit on just exactly how that's going to work and what the schedule is and what your plans are for football in the spring?
Yeah, it was, as you take a look at the schedule, it's not a perfect schedule. Normally we don't like to have teams play 3 straight games at home or 3 straight games on the road, and that occurred to 3 of our institutions next spring, late winter. And that's because of facility complex. We're cognizant of trying to provide the best opportunity for an environment to play, which would mean playing in domes or in the southernmost cities in our conference, which would be, in our case, Southern Illinois and Missouri State. So the Bears and the Salukis are slated to host games earlier. Dome stadiums are hosting games earlier. Some games had to be moved off of Saturday because of previously scheduled events in the domes. And so we've got some Friday games, we've got a Thursday game, we've got some Sunday games. It's not a clean, perfect schedule, but if we play it, it's perfect. We'll have an 8-game conference-only schedule beginning, as you said, on February 20th, culminating in a 16-team playoff with 11 automatic bids and 5 at-larges, and I hope we take, of course, our automatic and then additional of those 5 other spots.
Is a date for the Division I AA or FCS, is a date for the national championship game decided yet?
It is going to be the weekend of May 15th. It's going to be in Frisco as originally planned. I think they were looking at, I'm not sure if it was a TV decision or if they had a soccer match. They play soccer down in that stadium. But it'll either be that Friday, Saturday, or Sunday of that weekend.
There we go. And then hopefully 2021 gets underway under normal circumstances, we hope. Mike, thank you very much for taking time to visit with us, and we're greatly appreciative and look forward to seeing you when you make your next visit down here.
I can't wait to get to Springfield. And as you know, I went there and worked for Stilly in the sports information department, and my 2 kids went to Springfield and both graduated from Missouri State. And I can't wait to get back to visit my friends in Springfield.
We will look forward to it. Thank you, Mike. That is Mike Kern from the Missouri Valley Conference visiting with us. And I know John Jenkins, who's with us, probably has those same level of stories he can tell. John, were you able to get your golf results in the paper or on TV at all?
Back when I played, yeah, I remember having my results as a golfer and as a basketball player in the paper. But I don't send my golfers currently in anymore, so I guess everything's online now.
Yeah, that's and I say unfortunate, but the newer generation that's coming in accepts that as an everyday level of communications now. I know I can't speak for John Jenkins, but I know for John Hartley and Ned Reynolds, that's a very tough. It's just such a change that it's tough to acclimate yourself to. Do you find that to be a different circumstance altogether?
I do. I mean, everything in the world has changed quite a bit, especially this year, and just having to communicate with a new generation of athletes. They come from a digital world now instead of a paper print world like what I grew up in, and you guys even more so than me. It's a new world, and we're having to change everything we do and the way we communicate, and it's a lot of fun. It's challenging, but it's fun too.
John is the head coach of the Evangel Golfing Crusaders, as well he should be, an outstanding player in his own right. Fill us in a little bit on your fall schedule, what you've been able to do, and what restrictions you've had because of the virus.
We've been able to play, which is exciting. Last spring we got canceled, like pretty much everybody did, their sports schedules, and that was tough on the guys and the girls. You know, they work hard to try to get to play their sport, and then to have it all kind of taken away from them was tough. And we were worried going into this season it would be the same story, but man, we've been excited to be able to actually get out and play. And golf's one of the sports that, you know, it's easier to maintain your distance, and being outside, it's kind of a little bit of a safer environment for it. So we've been able to play. We've played 3 or 4 events, and we've done well. We've had some success, and I know there's some room for improvement as well, but it's been a good semester so far. I've gotten really good at using a little handheld thermometer and scanning people every day to make sure that, you know, they're not running a fever, and asking them if they've been out of the country in the last 14 days. I ask that question a lot, even though I already know the answer, but we have fun with that. So we're keeping the mood light, but we're doing our best to stay safe as well.
Here's the key question. When you decided you were going to give up on a pro career and go into coaching, did you ever think that taking somebody's temperature would be part of the protocol?
I didn't, but I'm pretty good at it. I mean, if there's something I can do, I can push that little button. So maybe this is a better career for me than professional golf ever would have been. This
is an unfair question because it does not involve you personally, but your dad is still very, very active in the coaching. Does he have to go through that same circumstance?
They do, and I think it's a little more challenging for them. They've got more bodies, and they're in closer quarters in there inside the gym, so it's tough on him. I know it is. It's something that's brand new for him and his whole coaching staff. So they're working hard to be able to practice as much as they can, but with all the restrictions, it's tough to put 30 or 40 kids in the same gym at the same time.
How has he, in your opinion, personally acclimated himself to it?
Well, he's doing a great job. He's been doing it so long that it's tough to ask someone who's been coaching as a head coach for 39 years now to have a whole new normal for everything he goes through with practice and preparing for practice and, wearing a mask when you're trying to coach and stuff like that. But I think he's rolled with the punches, and he's doing a good job, and I think they're going to have a pretty good program this year.
John, my daughter Kelly Richardson teaches at Evangel in the kinesiology department, and so I'm aware a little bit of the sporadic positives that have been in your campus. Has any of the positive tests touched your club or your team or anyone near what you're involved in over there?
We've been fortunate on the golf team. I haven't had any positives on my team. I've had two that had to quarantine for a time because of contact tracing, and that hurt them a little bit. It was close enough to our first tournament that they weren't able to practice for a week or two leading up to that first event. And I think that threw, especially one of them was one of my top guy players. He was playing well going into it. Then he had to sit out for a week, and coming back, he wasn't nearly as sharp as he was beforehand. But other than that, we've been fortunate. I haven't had anybody miss an event because of it, so hopefully that keeps going.
John Jenkins is the head golf coach at Evangel. Let's talk a little bit about what do you have, for the rest of the fall season. Do you have any tournaments still scheduled, and where is your home course?
We have one event remaining this fall. We're going to head up next Sunday. We're going up to Baker they have a match play event up there, so there'll be 8 guys teams and 8 girls teams, and I'm taking a guys and a girls team up there to play, and it's the first time I've ever done a match play event with the college team, so that should be interesting. We're excited about it, though, because it's a different kind of golf. It's a different mindset to go into a match rather than just trying to shoot the lowest score. Now you're just playing individual holes against one other person, so it should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. I know some of the girls are excited that they don't have to count some of those big numbers they take sometimes. They get to, forget about that one. We're going to go to the next hole, and it's going to be good. So that'll be fun. And then we've been hosting our home event at Rivercut. Rivercut has had some troubles this season, and we didn't get to play our home event there. So we've been at Bill and Payne Stewart here, just next to campus, and that's where we usually practice. Millwood and Twin Oaks are nice enough to let us come out to their courses one day a week and play, and we're real appreciative of that. That's nice to let the guys play a couple really good courses as well. But Stewart takes good care of us, and we get to practice there and play on the Little Buddy course and also on the championship course there, and that's been great for our team as well.
John, in a match play tournament, how many matches are there, both men and women?
So there's eight teams in each, so that'll be a bracket of, you'll play 3 matches. So we'll play 2 on Monday, and we'll have to play pretty quick to get done before the sun goes down, and then they'll repair us up, and we'll play again on Tuesday morning hopefully for the championship.
When you have your team, you go into your dormant period throughout the winter. Do you keep your kids pretty active in some way?
I do. We do little off-season workouts down here in the baseball field house. We can come in early in the morning and do a little bit of work, usually flexibility and core work, but we also have some nets set up to where they can hit some balls and keep their golf muscles active throughout the winter when the weather's too cold to get outside. This year will be a little different because we've shortened our semester. We started a week earlier, and then after Thanksgiving break, we're sending everybody home, and they're not going to come back, so they don't have to go home and come back to campus again. So we won't have quite as long a period for off-season training this semester, but we'll get started back up in the spring and start working out there in January probably.
I'm sorry that you just lost me with that one. You mean they don't come back to school at all?
Right. So we started the semester a week earlier with the intention of being done by the Thanksgiving break. Usually we go to Thanksgiving and then they come back there for a couple weeks in December and finish up their finals before the Christmas vacation. But we've cut not just for golf. This is for the entire campus. We've cut it short so that not everybody's traveling home all over the country and then all coming back again just for a couple of weeks, just to kind of minimize the contact that way. And for safety, they've taken that step, and hopefully it works out for us and we can have a good spring semester.
When will be the opening date in 2021 when school does reopen?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. It'll be there
in January sometime, though.
It'll be in January, probably the somewhere around the 10th, right there in that second week of January.
Has the Heart of America Conference and or the NAIA announced any kind of schedule that you can undertake in the spring for golf?
I haven't heard any changes yet. I know what we've been doing has changed almost every day. It seems like some news come out, but I haven't heard yet what our schedule is going to look like in the spring. I'm hoping and praying that we have a normal spring schedule because that's when our conference season is. Our conference tournament is in April, and we'd love to have a full normal season of travel and everything so we can play some golf leading up to the conference tournament.
We all hope that is the case, too. John Jenkins, thank you very much for being with us. Much good luck, and holler at Papa for us, will you?
I will do it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
John Jenkins visiting with us. He's the head golf coach for the Evangel University Crusaders.